Women of Reddit, what things do men do that frighten you without them even realizing it? Excessive compliments. One is enough and sweet, but a couple more in the same setting creeps me out and makes me uncomfortable. Please don't talk to or approach a woman pumping gas, especially at night. I'm sure the moon does look amazing, but I am not interested right now. Gas stations are creepy enough without having to make small talk with a stranger. This goes for parking lots at night as well. Invading my space. I used a massage chair a few weeks ago at the gym, and it's one of the newer models that will lift you and bring you to a reclined position about 3 feet off the ground. I'm 51, so for some that may not seem too high, but for me it's pretty elevated feeling. There was this man who walked into the room, kept looking at me, and tapped me to ask me my name and tell me I was pretty. I had headphones in, my eyes were shut, and I clearly was not wanting to engage with anyone. Flashed him my engagement ring. My fiancé wasn't at the gym at the time, and told him my fiancé was coming to join me. Never saw a man book it so hard. It's so frustrating that no matter who clear you are trying to make the fact you are a woman who is not interested in talking to people, it's not respected. Until you insinuate a more masculine partner is present. May have been intentional there, but I feel like a lot of times invasion of space can be unintentional. The only things they say to you, even if not inappropriate, are sexually charged or are inappropriate. When they emphasize that I don't need to be frightened of them completely unprompted. No easier way of getting me to be on my guard. 3 years ago I matched with a guy on Tinder and agreed to meet up with him. He suggested going to a park, and when I got there it was a heavily wooded area with a trail, and I stupidly followed him into the trail. We walked around for a while, sat on some rocks, then it started getting dark and we decided to head out, but we ended up getting iced and not being able to find the exit, and we stumbled upon a grave-sized hole in the dirt, and at this point it was pitch black and I was thinking it was all a set-up and that I was going to be ambushed. I pointed out the grave-sized hole and he seemed scared too, so I gave him the benefit of the doubt and stayed quiet. We finally found an exit after about an hour of stumbling in pitch black darkness. We're still dating to this day, and I've brought up what a horrible date plan that was, and how it came off the wrong way lol, and he said he didn't realize it at the time. It was a total curb your enthusiasm moment. I was picked up that day, so I didn't have a car with me to back out and drive home, so that was pretty dumb of me too. It's not frightening, per se, but it definitely makes me wary because it could lead to situations that are frightening. When talking to a guy, he's super pushy. Like, asking for pics of this and that, and even saying no, they're still pushy. All that makes me do is not want to meet him. If he's this pushy via text/messaging, how pushy is he going to be in person? If he can't take no, now, what are the odds he can take no in person? I once had a guy demand that I rank my sexual partners. I told him no. I told him I can't and I won't. Dude flew off the digital handle. I blocked him right then. Asking personal questions that have nothing to do with why you are communicating in the first place. Example, getting my muffler welded and being asked by the welder, where do you live? How long have you lived there? Do you have roommates or is it just you? And about 30 more personal and invasive questions. Telling me things they would do to me if I didn't have a husband. Being out somewhere and them not letting me leave, not taking no for an answer, telling me that they drive by my home to see if I'm there. Standing too close. How do you know if it's too close? I'll back up half a step, don't match it. When men try to show off their dominance over you or anyone really. Like when you mention something to a guy about another guy and he goes, I'll kill anyone who talks to you. It's quite frightening really. Pick me up. I'm short and have a slight build. It's not that I'm scared of them trying to prove how strong they are, I'm just terrified of being dropped. Hovering. Don't hover behind me. That's one of the very few things that makes me nervous. A guy I'm seeing took me out to a baseball game for our first date. It was nice, I didn't get any weird vibes from him at all. After the game, he asked if wanted to go see some of the spots he likes to go walking. I didn't think much about it until we got there and I realized he was basically taking me to the woods in the dark. He told me to follow him and I'm thinking I'm about to get killed, but It turns out he just wanted to show me his favorite place to go on walks and chill because you can see the entire city from there and at night it looks really pretty. He took me to a couple more trails that night and I ended up having a great time and forgot that it's pitch black outside and I'm with a guy I've never gone out with before out in nature. Definitely thought I was going to get killed. At first though. Obviously can't speak for all women, but we generally don't have a fantasy of belonging to someone in a controlling sense. A lot of men can be pretty controlling without even knowing it. Pretending we're deeper friends than we are, being overly familiar and then acting like they have a right to you. Had a guy do this in college. When I told him he didn't get to dictate who I talked to, he spit his drink in my face. I barely knew him. Blocking the doorway, especially during an argument. X did that and would make himself bigger, spreading his arms etc., so I couldn't leave the room. That sounds like he knew exactly what he was doing. Glad you got out of that one. I don't know why you're acting so cautious. If I wanted to kill you, I would have already done it. Said to me by a friend of a friend I was meeting because it was his first time in a foreign country. Happened few times. I was working late in small market with no one around and when they come in and ask me if I'm not scared to be alone. Well, now I am, thanks. Call me nicknames like sweetheart or baby girl when I've never met them before. I walk in today, a guy on motorcycle pulled up on me 3x. I mean dude, if I don't want to engage, then don't follow, continue to pull over to meet me or whatever, adding, wanted to add that although my area feels very safe, I don't want to see any vehicle roll up on me, no shoulder, because on President's Day, a car rolled up on me, windows came down, airsoft guns came out, and they shot me with rock salt. Years ago I went out with this dude and during snacks and a drink, it was pretty clear we weren't a good match. I politely turned down another round and thanked him. I put my bag over my shoulder and began walking to the bar to pay. Not more than 2 steps from the table the dude yanks my purse strap and says what, no hug? Really taken aback, I hugged him and shuffled quickly to pay and get out of there. As I was paying I explained to the waitress whom I knew from another job that the dude was super creepy and asked if I could sneak down the back stairs. She let me go through and I rushed down the back stairs and then outside to my car. Breathing a deep sigh I got out of the parking lot and at the first red light at the corner where the restaurant was the creepy dude crossing the street. Without any hint of emotion, he whipped out a pen and wrote my license plate down on his hand. Never saw him again, that I know of. First date, didn't really know him. Comes to my apartment to pick me up, invite him in and he proceeds to tell me how he is going to rearrange the furniture when he moves in. Back in the 70s I always picked up hitchhikers, picked up this guy, he gets in then looks at me and says you should really be careful about who you pick up. Guy I was living with, no you will never leave me. Because you can't outrun a bullet. Getting my number from someone else and reaching out to start an unsolicited conversation. Not going away when I have made it abundantly clear that I am not interested. Not accepting no or anything you explicitly outline to them. Any man who feels compelled to grab a woman by the waist to move them out of the way. This one may be intentional, but it gives me the absolute creeps when men try to squeeze past me and lightly put their hands on me, especially my waist. I hate it. Just say excuse me. Physical intimidation. Standing too close to me or backing me into a corner and making me feel trapped. It puts me on the defensive so fast. Someone saying where's my hug, or otherwise trying to imply that they are owed physical contact. Wanting to take me somewhere isolated to be just the two of us on the first date. It's okay if we've been hanging out for a while, but not if it's the first time I see you in person. Whenever this happens I come up with an excuse not to go. I just don't feel safe since I barely know the other person, but the worst part is when they try so hard to convince me to go with them. This makes me feel more and more uncomfortable. Invading my space. Double points if they're doing it to make an unsolicited comment about you. Not taking no for an answer, especially when they pretend to be jokey about it but you can clearly tell they're kind of pissed. If that makes sense. Not understanding that a polite decline isn't an invitation just to try harder, and is just that, declining to spend more time with the guy. I know men complain all the time about how women must be communicating in some bizarre code they can't be expected to understand, but a lot of women have been conditioned by experience to decline a man's invitations or attentions in the most polite, face-saving way possible. I don't think there is a woman out there who hasn't had a man get really angry and threatening when the woman, was just trying to say thanks but no thanks and move on. I am not just talking about getting picked up in a bar or on the street. I am talking about any man anywhere who decides he wants a woman's full attention, or wants to give his opinion on her appearance, attitude, lack of smiling, whatever, at that moment. It happens so often that you just want to get away from this guy, but they aren't really noticing your, to you, obvious expressions of wanting to leave, and if you get more explicit, you really don't know what will happen. If you stay, you also don't know what will happen, because they might think you are leading him on. It feels like a no-win situation, and one a man could use as an excuse, either way, to verbally or physically attack you. Today I was at the corner store buying a bag of chips and cigars. As soon as I walked in, some dude eyed me up and down and kept making damn remarks at me as I walked to get my bag of chips. I got to the register to pay. He was suddenly behind me and continued making goddamn remarks. I couldn't even focus to pay. I entered the wrong PIN for my card. My hands were shaking. I was scared and super uncomfortable. He even followed me out and watched me drive away. I'm a guy, but I've been told by women that me raising my voice has been very frightening/triggering. Commenting on how short or weak I look and explaining how easy it would be to pick me up or overpower me. Do men think I'll think it's sexy when they do this? Probably. Is it extremely concerning and scary? Yes. Joking about how easy it would be to overpower us. On more than one occasion I've had male friends joke about how easy it would be to pick me up or restrain me or another woman. It's not funny, it's creepy. When they invade your personal space or take an intimidating stance, hovering over you, taking up as much space as possible, etc. Sitting right next to me when I don't know you and there are plenty of other seats available. Some guy did this to me on a late-night tram once even though the entire compartment was empty. It seemed sketchy enough for me to get up, push past him and get off the tram, which was a great decision because I later found out that that dude had flashed and sexually harassed a lot of girls on that line before. A guy asked me, "Do you always walk at this time of night?" I stopped walking after 8 p.m. after he said that, even though it's difficult for me to find time to walk outside otherwise. Also, if we're making out for the first time and they do something aggressive, like pinning your arms over your head then holding both wrists with one hand, leaving their other hand free, it can be hot as F, but if I don't know you that well there's a terrifying moment I wonder what I'm in for. Coming on way too strong, especially online sometimes. Or being way too demanding, about stuff at times. And this one doesn't necessarily frighten me, just kind of freaks me out. But at work, have had two foreign dudes, just starting at me when we're working. Both have been box builders, and just continuously stare as they make boxes or in the break room. And I don't care how nice/friendly people say they are. You don't just non-stop gawk at people. In whatever situation I'm in, having a man say "I would be so nervous if I were you" will never not spook me. Like, dude, this is an electronics store at 2 p.m. I didn't think I had reason to be nervous but I am now. Being overly familiar with me, in a situation I cannot leave. I used to ride the bus home from work, and my schedule varied very little. This led to me getting on the same bus at 10:20 at night, at the same stop every night. A man who rode the bus the same times, the same nights, took this as me wanting to be his friend. He immediately started asking me super personal questions, the highlights. "You must live around here because you always get off the bus after me. Who are you texting? I wish I could text you. Who do you live with? You must work at Always Walk from over there." This is after me telling him I didn't want to talk, and that I didn't want to go out with him. Ugh. Because you. Making crude jokes/double entendres if I don't know you that well. Even worse when it's in a professional setting. All you're going to do is make me feel uncomfortable. From GF. That's kinda a tough one, but probably just anything around not respecting personal space / standing too close or like trying to be alone with me. Also of course showing up unannounced to places they know I'd be or having their friends act as wingmen. Honestly, if I'm in a city environment I'm a lot more worried about the women around me because that's much more likely how like trafficking happens. I'm usually hypervigilant and walk fast / try to take paths I know are safe, so not the easiest target, but also anytime I'm in a group environment and I decide to split off and go home I'd much rather walk alone. It makes me uncomfortable depending on the person if just one guy offers to walk with me because they're going the same way. If it's a group walking that's totally fine, but one feels uncomfy. Drive their car up next to me while I'm walking to tell me I look nice walking behind me in an empty area when it's dark. Going to the bar to get you a drink without you there to watch the bartender pour it. If I don't know you well, I won't accept a drink from your hands. Ever. Straight from the bartender to me. Insisting each of them my number and then making sure their call comes through before I leave. Keep on pursuing me when I say no. It makes you seem obsessed. It worries me at what lengths you will go to make me say yes, or if you might possibly do something to any male I'm friends with. Obsession is a scary thing. I was late getting my driver's license and hired a professional driving instructor to help me learn to drive. He was a guy about my age and he was openly hitting on me. It was so uncomfortable. It was just us in the car and I was in such a vulnerable position as a novice driver depending on him for support. I didn't want him to think I was interested, but I also was terrified to be rude to him. Because he was in control. It was a terrible experience and actually set me back several more years from driver training. Just need to add as well, since there are presumably men here reading to learn what not to do, learn how to notice hesitation. You'll never understand the intense pressure to be nice, polite, and even feign some form of interest as a method of self-preservation. It is a survival tactic and it works. Just about all of us have gotten out of a volatile situation this way. If a woman is avoiding eye contact, seems to hesitate to answer, especially personal questions, or is agreeing with you a lot without attempting to carry the conversation, she is hoping you'll leave her alone. Interested women make eye contact, share willingly, and try to joke around or otherwise show their personality. If you're not sure, tell her you're going to another location in whatever establishment you're in. I'm going to grab a drink / go outside for a smoke / go back to my table, and invite her to join you. If she comes along, green light. If she takes the out and makes an excuse to leave, you have your answer. I'm of the male variety. I drive Uber a lot, sometimes up to 12/HRS daily. I treat everyone with respect and will greet them when they enter and confirm their destination. Usually I'm quiet because I'm more introverted and just let the radio play. I started to notice girls would enter their address in their own GPS on their phones. One time it started speaking turn-by-turn directions, until she quickly fumbled and turned it off. I didn't think much of it, but then one time a woman got in the car and she was wearing a sweatshirt from a local festival. We started talking about the festival and how our families go every year, etc. When we got to her drop-off, she thanked me for talking to her because she said usually she is so anxious in Ubers with male drivers. I honestly had never considered that before, so now I always try to start neutral conversations with women in the car even if I'm tired. Yelling, even when it's not at me. They could yell at the TV and it triggers my fight or flight. Pushing my wheelchair to help me and be a gentleman. You're literally abducting me. It's no different from my perspective that you picking up an able-bodied woman and running off with her. Catcalling or harassing pregnant women. I'd heard of it happening but never witnessed it until now. Now that I'm pregnant, I can't move as fast or as well as before and I'm having to worry over not just my safety but my child's too. It's terrifying in a whole new way to have a stranger looming over me and trying to chat me up when my body is contributing to my vulnerability more than ever. I don't know why but men talk to me in public way more than women. Like I'm young and random 50-year-olds will just start up a conversation even if they're on the other side of the train. This dude asked my name and I said Jessica, not my name, and he said yeah you really do look like a Jessica and asked my ethnicity and or the whole waiting room will be empty but they choose the seat next to me and ask me how much my phone costs and why I'm at the pharmacy. Maybe I'm just an introvert, but like, why do people decide to talk to random strangers like that? Demanding justification for every no, and when it's given, arguing about how my reasons aren't valid. Approaching while in a car and blocking our path with said car. Happened while I was on a walk, so he could have parked, approached on foot, and maintained a respectable distance. This dude used to come into the restaurant I was waitressing at and would wear this come and go shirt and would offer to buy a bunch of underage girls shots. He didn't realize he was creepy. You could tell by the way he paraded his friends around with his boom box and play loud ass music on the patio of the restaurant. Apparently he was a rich prick who donated money to the restaurant all the time. After I left, I heard a story that he fixated on one of the waitresses that was nice to him, and he would follow her around and to her car. He even bought her a ton of expensive presents for Christmas, which she refused. Guy who I sometimes see at work, has at least 20 years on me, effing pulled my ponytail to say hi one time. So shocked that I just smiled awkwardly and didn't say anything. Like, what world are you living in that you think that's okay?